Okay, y'all. Once again, I videoed 2 classes and I paused it because Mr. Tyler came over the intercom, and guess what? I stopped the video and I didn't video. So I was getting ready to put it on YouTube when I watched it, and it was about 25 seconds long. So I was getting ready. This is my I'm out of school look. Had my hair all pulled back, washed my face, getting ready to change clothes. And I got to make this video, and once again, here I am, except for now I'm at my house. This is my living room, and I have written on several pieces of paper so that you have this information. Um, I just don't know. I told everybody that I needed a person to come in and be my technical advisor or something, because I don't know. This is just insane. I'm trying to set it up with YouTube to where I can live stream, but then that means that you have to be online during your class period to get the information. And I know some of you don't do this till later at night, so this is what we got now. I'm going to make it all the way through this video, and I'm going to get it put on YouTube tonight. And I hope that you can see this. I don't know. Let's see. Can you see? Oh, you can see. Okay. So I'm going to be like one of those people on a video on social media and holding up my pieces of paper. I may not have everything written down, but you have a video, so you can look back and forth on the video to get the information and or listen to me. So this is kind of continuing from the video that I made and posted yesterday because I didn't press record and had to make that video. So I'm going to start out with first just a real quick recap on this, which is the French and Indian War. I was actually going to do this on my refrigerator, but it kind of looked weird. The French and Indian War, real quick, running through this. It was the British versus the French. The British had the Loyalists who fought on their side, and the Loyalists were the people who were still loyal to the king. I do think that I said that backwards in the video I put up yesterday. But you'll see this word, loyalist, when we go into the revolution. So learn that word and know that word. Know that a loyalist was a person who was still loyal to the king in Britain. On the French side, you had the militia, who were the colonists who created an army that wasn't necessarily an army, and they were fighting against the government. The government would be the British king. All this was fought over land. Britain wanted more land. You had the Native Americans who joined the French. That's why it's called the French and Indian War. It's a weird name for the war because in class today, when I said, I put a mark, I said who versus who, and I got a lot of, the French versus the Indian, Miss Nolan. That's why it's called the French and Indian War. And I was like, you would think, but it was not. The French and Indian came together. And not a good war. Not a good war at all. It was all over land. As I said, it originated in the colonies, and then it moved throughout the world, and Britain wanted control of everything. The way I described it in class today was, a lot of people think that when you think of war, you think the winner is the person who blew up the most or killed everybody, and it was the end of the war. But most times, a war ends with an agreement. There have actually been wars that have ended, and they'll say, March 22nd of 2021 at 12 o'clock, we're going to cease fire. And they, whoever is the has the greatest outcome is the person who they consider the winner. So the French and Indian War, once again, recapping, ended with the Treaty of Paris. The Treaty of Paris outlined how the war was going to end, and they all agreed. They sit down. As weird as that sounds, they all sat down and they worked out an agreement called the Treaty of Paris. You're going to see the Treaty of Paris one more time. It's a very common name for treaties, apparently. But Britain got all the land east of the Mississippi. Now, you see this? Got all the land east of the Mississippi. This was the issue. You had the people who were in the colonies who had gone over from Britain and settled and created and colonized and had a life. And there was, correspondence going back and forth between the colonists and the people in Britain. And there were other people in Britain, like I said yesterday, who were like, hey, we want to come over. Well, the king, being greedy, as kings are, they want more, because more equals power. Said, well, I need more land for these people who are over here, and they would like to move over to this area. So that was kind of like his reason for beginning this. That's what they say. So we're going to go with it. Anyhow, so then after he fought this war, after he sent his very, very, very proper army over, and in class, we kind of laughed and discussed how they send these British soldiers over, and they are very proper. They still to this day are very proper. And I'm imagining their outfits alone cost a lot of money, because it was that big old hat with the feathers and their red tails like a tux uniform and some white pants. And who really wears white pants in a war? That's why we have camo. So that amount of money, the king said, I had to make up that money somehow or another. Y'all owe me. And, of course, Kyle's like, we don't owe you anything because we were over here doing our thing. We were good to go. We had our land. So, no, we don't owe you anything already than what we are already paying you. And they were paying a lot. I've got something weird that has popped up on my screen, and I can only see half of it. Let me close it out real quick. So, before they had the Salutary, I'm going to show you that in a minute, Act, and it actually set and put into place how they were going to pay taxes and what they paid taxes on. They were very lenient with it. Very, very lenient with it. The king was like, going to make up this money, and we've kind of neglected the Salutary Act. This would be Salutary Neglect. They had this system that was in place, how the taxes would be paid, and what you owed and everybody owed, and how it worked, and how the money went back and forth from the colonies to Britain, and how Britain was supposed to provide protection. But they didn't enforce this very well, and it did not work very well. And it was kind of one of those things when the king woke up and said, I made this, but it's not working, so now we're going to have to do something else. Well, after this war, the king decided that he needed to put, can you see, a standing army. That is what they were referred as, the standing army. The standing army was put into place where they had just gotten all that land east of the Mississippi. The king said that the standing army was there to protect the colonists from the Native Americans. Could be true. Didn't really do that for the original colonists. But it was a good excuse if you had an army over there protecting people to say, I'm going to have to charge you even more money now because now I'm protecting you. So that was his way of actually starting to generate more money, because he made these people think that he was protecting them. He may or may not have been. I wasn't there. You weren't there. Who knows? But it is a good way to start saying, I'm protecting you, you had to pay me, you owe me, because we're going to now protect you from these Native Americans, even though you came over here first and, dealt with them all along. So, who pays this? Who pays for this army to protect these people? Well, you when you get older, we'll pay for this army that protects you. When you see on TV when the National Guard has to come in, um, you pay that. That comes out of your tax dollars. That comes out of my tax dollars. The police, fire, all that, that's local. But for like the Marines and the Army and the Navy and the National Guard and the Armed Forces, our tax dollars pay that. And we should, because they are helping protect us when we need them to protect us. However, you gotta have something to tax, and you gotta add enough tax that it actually generates the money. So once he realized old Salutary wasn't working, he decided that he was going to change up the Sugar Act and how they paid for sugar. So he created a new Sugar Act. And in this Sugar Act, I don't know if you can see this, the taxes on sugar increased. They went significantly higher. However, the taxes on molasses got lower. The reason they did this way is because, can you see? I feel like it's backwards. Because they were trying to reduce the instances of smuggling. Now, as I talked about this with my class this morning, they kind of looked at me strange when I said that smuggling sugar was a big thing. You don't think about it, you're like, smuggling sugar, Miss Nolan? Yeah, smuggling sugar. You are addicted to sugar. We're all addicted to sugar. Not so much me because I have a weird diet, but the majority of people, all that processed food you eat is full of sugar. It makes things taste good. These people enjoyed it. They were heavy tea drinkers. I like hot tea without sugar, but a lot of people will not drink it. I had a tea party one year, the Boston Tea Party we actually had in class, and in a million years I did not think that I would need 25 pounds of sugar. I had to send somebody to the store. People like their sugar, and they're going to do what they want. You can kind of closely relate it to a drug. So when you think of smuggling sugar, think of it as it was like the original drug that they smuggled. The deal is when a ship left port in the colonies to go over to Britain, they paid a tax. They paid a port fee to leave. They paid a port fee to when they landed in Britain. Then they would get their merchandise. They would pay that person and pay the taxes on that. Then they would bring the merchandise back to their ship. You know how when you go over the bridge, you see all the barges and they're carrying, they pay all this too. But it's a more legitimate way now. And so they'd come back with all their sugar and stuff, and they would have to pay taxes on it. Then they would go back across the Atlantic Ocean, back over to the 13 colonies, and they would have to pay taxes again. Then they would take it to the person that purchased it, and they would have to pay that person, and then they would sell it, and they would add more taxes. It was a lot of taxes, and it was starting to irritate the people. So they decided, hey, we'll just start smuggling it. Sugar was really important too, not just as a luxury. I've talked about this in class, maybe not with you, but so rum was a big deal. When you watch, I love Pirates of the Caribbean. I love pirate movies. I've even been to the Pirate Museum in St. Augustine, Florida. And the thing that happened was when you're on these ships and you're going back and forth, you don't have Uber Eats and you don't have a refrigerator and you don't have a microwave. And fruit and vegetables are very important to your diet because you need nutrients. Well, you can get artificial nutrients because you can take vitamins, and now they dehydrate stuff. We give them to the Army when they go places, but then they didn't. So they had to preserve things, and the only ways that they had to preserve things was either salt or sugar. Sugar cane, rum was made from that, and they found that rum would preserve the the oranges and the lemons and all that, and that they could get vitamin C from it so they wouldn't get scurvy and they wouldn't die. So not only was it good in your tea and good to eat and add to your cereal, it was also necessary because that was the only way they traveled. They didn't have planes, trains, and automobiles. They had ships. So it was important. It was medicinal in a way because if they didn't have it, they got sick. So people started smuggling it. A lot of people didn't. Some people still tried to be legit. And I'm going to add there was probably some bribery there to the port person. I'll pay you if you just let me go ahead and get through. But other people, they were just searching and seizing their stuff. So this is the point where we get to when laws that we have now were created because of instances like this. It's things build up and people start paying attention. They're like, you know what? Maybe we didn't make a law about this. So when these people started smuggling, everybody was guilty. And they had, like their port police who could search and seize whatever they wanted to. And everybody was guilty. Nobody was innocent. There was no trial by a jury. It was just, you are guilty. What do I have down here on back? Oh, there had to be no cause, no proof now. So what would happen is the port police person, I'm going to call them a port police because you can relate to that. They would go on the ship, and if you didn't have proof that you had purchased this sugar and paid your dues and paid your taxes and all that, then they would just take it. Search and seizure. They would search your ship and then they would seize everything. To seize means to take it. You were automatically guilty. We have a law in this country, we're not going to argue about this right now, that you are innocent until you are proven guilty. You either go in front of a judge or you go in front of a trial, a jury of your peers, and they decide if you're guilty or innocent. However, these people did not. They didn't have anybody to represent them, and they had nobody to say, no, you got to have proof. Nowadays, if you're driving along and you get pulled over and a police officer says, I would like to search your car, they have to have probable cause. Now, they're going to find probable cause if they want to, and they're going to tear your car all up. But when they do that, whatever they find, they can take. And when they take that, they put it into an evidence locker. And it stays there. Nobody's supposed to touch it. It stays there until you go to trial. Now, if it's an illegal substance, you do not get it back. However, everything else that they take that is legal, you get back because it's actually your property. When you get arrested, a person has to get you out, and they're called a bail bondsman. And you don't have money, so whoever's there whoever signs your bail, that's why people just don't easily sign one. They have to put stuff up for collateral. And collateral is that it has a monetary value, and usually a very high monetary value. So what was happening here is instead of you signing a bond and getting it back, because if you sign a bond and the person goes to trial, then you don't lose your house. You don't lose whatever you put up for collateral. However, when this was happening, they were seizing the stuff and they were holding it for collateral. I'm going to go get my pen real quick to kind of explain this to you a little bit more. Right back here. So this is kind of how you can think about it. I'm going to use me because otherwise it's weird talking to a computer. I have a ship. I'm a legit sugar runner, we can call me. So I'm the sugar runner. And I refuse to pay somebody off because I'm doing everything legal. Well, when you got to do everything legal, they probably give you a little slip of paper, sign a book or something. And, you know, you're on a journey in the ocean. You got all that weather and everything else going on. And it was probably exceptionally easy to misplace the proof that you had. Probably where logbooks came from. Like truck drivers have logbooks now, because then you have a book and you carry it with you and you're not going to lose it as easy as, I don't know, a receipt. I can't keep up with a receipt. So I'm a sugar runner legally. And then the port police, as I'm calling them, decide they no longer like Miss No One. So we're going to get her. So they go in and they find, I don't know, 800 pounds of sugar. They are going to take my sugar. That's the first thing they're going to do. Take my sugar. There goes my money. Been on this voyage that cost a whole lot of money. Had to take people with me. Had to load all that stuff up, pay all those taxes, pay all those port fees, do all that stuff. And now these people have taken my profit. Well, if you're a smuggler, what's the next step? I'm going to tell you. Jail. So then I'm in jail. And when you go to jail, you pay fines. And lots of them. How am I going to pay fines? You've taken all my stuff that I was going to sell, that I've paid all the taxes on, paid the port fees, paid the port fees, paid the taxes, paid the taxes, paid the taxes. I was about to go give this to somebody so that they could sell it in their shop and give people their product, and then they could make you some money too, but now you got me paying fines. I have no money. So what you going to do? They're going to seize my boat because I have no collateral, and that becomes my collateral. And in their minds, it's, oh, those are going to pay your fines, and you're going to get out, and everything's going to be okay. Well, that big old boat wasn't enough money for the king, and he's like, oh, no, 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 we got to have some more money. So before it was over with, they're going to take my land and my home. All of this is going to go bye-bye. Well, what do you think they're going to do with all this? Are they going to keep it for themselves? No, no, no. They're going to put this sugar back out there, redistribute it, tax somebody else for it, and do the very same thing. They're going to, they're going to leave me sitting in jail. And then once they take all this, they're going to go, okay, you're free to go now. We're going to send you over on the other side that we just won from France. And we're going to let you fend for yourself, but there's a standing army there to take care of you. So hold steady. They're going to take my boat. They're going to either use it for themselves or they're going to sell it and make more money, tax it, make more money. And then my land and my home, they're going to say that, hey, hello, you wanted to move to the colonies. We got a place for you. It's already built. You don't have to worry about it or anything. And then they're going to sell my house that I built, and they're going to charge taxes. And it was a vicious cycle, and it went on and on and on. Would this make you mad? If you were the sugar man, would you get a little upset? It made people mad, and it made people in the colonies be like, you know what? This old king here is really taking us for some money. He did lower the price on the taxes on the molasses, but do you know where molasses comes from? Trees. You can just go get you some, tap, 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 get you some molasses. It's really, I compare it to like if you had 5 McDonald's sweet teas all in one cup. You know how, it makes your mouth do all that. People like their sugar. It was nice. It was great. They needed it. They needed it for their tea. Taxes made people very unhappy. When this started happening, people said, I'm feeling like we maybe need to think about this. And I really think that we should have, I don't know, some representation to debate this and say, this isn't right, this isn't fair, or could we talk about it? Could we maybe come to a compromise, kind of like you did with the Treaty of Paris? So if you watch the video that I actually made and did not forget to record, Mr. Martin was talking about representation. And he said representation, taxation without representation. We're going to go in that. But we're not going to talk about it because I didn't talk about it with my class today because we had discussions and it literally took the whole entire 45 minutes. We were trying to get through stuff real quick. But that's what started that, is the people in the colonies were like, look, we'll come to a compromise. They didn't want to fight. They didn't want to start this war. They just wanted to come to a compromise. Like our people who represent us now in the House of Representatives with Congress and senators and the president and all those people come together and they sit down and they say, we don't want this, but we do want this, and we'll go this far, but we won't go this far. Let's work together. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The people in the colonies did not have that. So this was the moment, this act really punched them in the gut. And it made them think, we've got somehow or another, we've got to make some changes. We've got to get this king's attention. He's not over here. He's being told via whatever letter or carrier or friend or, ally that he has that's over here, spy. That's who's going back and forth and telling him things, and he's not the one over here suffering and building. We're building all this for him. We were doing that over there before, and we couldn't get any further, and we're still being held down. We've got to do something. So you didn't have very many people. Yesterday I was talking about, you couldn't think out loud. I know I wrote this on a piece of paper. If you did, then you were going to get in trouble. But we had one dude who came along. It's probably not the first guy, but it's the guy who went down in the history books, and his name was James Otis. James Otis. This man. James Otis could have gotten in some serious trouble, and it's called treason, because he was speaking against the king verbally out loud, orally, I guess that's the word we're looking for, and you didn't do that. It was not allowed because the king still ruled. And James was like, look, we got to get some representation. We got to do something. And James, according to the history book, is the one who started this communication amongst all the people. Like, you know what? Get up, rise up, let's do something. Mr. Otis, who you wouldn't think that it would be a big deal to say that because we have freedom of speech to a certain extent, and we can say stuff like that. We just got a new president, and prior to that, people had their feelings, and now people have their feelings. And you know what you can do? You can voice those feelings and not worry about persecution. I mean, your friends might get mad at you, but you can still voice what you want to say. James Otis couldn't. And this man risked, I don't know if y'all seen the torture devices these people use, but they had the tongue stretcher, and they twisted. The punishment matched the crime. So treason, he was saying, he was speaking, and they could have done all that to him. Of course they didn't, because all that was happening over in Europe, and the king's trying not to look too bad. So James is the man. And then tomorrow you're going to hear about Samuel Adams and Patrick Henry. But I can't talk about it right now because, number one, I'm tired. And number two, because I can't get ahead with my other kids. But I am going to have this conversation. And this could be why it took 45 minutes. So today I had an epiphany. I don't know if you know what an epiphany is, but it's like an enlightening moment. I started asking my kids some questions because I like to review when I'm talking to my students. And I started asking questions about the colonies. And the first question was, where did the people in the colonies live before they came to the colonies? Or to America, to establish colonies? Do y'all hear my dog snoring? Because that's what I heard. I had a few people who knew the answer to it, and I was a little taken back because I do believe we talked about the Native Americans for about 3 weeks, and then we talked about Columbus and the Columbian Exchange. I spent a long time on that. And then I didn't talk about like the 13 colonies because that's knowledge you should have gathered 4th, 5th grade. But we started talking about certain things that were happening in the colonies. And I was real surprised that people did not know. So I'm going to just brief you on this real quick because I know y'all have so much going on and it's a crazy year. And I don't know. I don't think people pay attention to me, but the colonists were from Britain. Britain, also referred as the UK or England. If you have a map, I don't have one. Well, I do, but it's in my bedroom. I guess I could take y'all that way. Okay, let's go in here. Just so y'all can see, because I showed them, so I'm going to show you. Oddly, I have a map. Oh, wait. No, that's not going to work. Well, so this is from the school, and it's from 1946, and it's really cool. But so these are the original colonies right here. All right here. And then Spain had Florida, and France had all this, okay? So if this was a world map, which it's not because it's just the United States, right over here, this way, you would see there's Africa down here, and then there's Spain, and then there's Europe. So it's a little boat ride across. That's where it is. And now I guess you can see now. This is the only place that we had the colonies. This is where they all established the colonies. Can't even remember why I was telling you that, but you need a visual of that because you need to know where that is. And once again, I don't know. I kind of felt like I explained this. So they were all from Britain. We did have Spanish colonists, but we don't talk about the Spanish. We want to talk about the British because that's who we went to war with, or the colonists went to war with. Everybody was controlled. Everything was controlled by the king and the parliament. In Mr. Martin's video, he was talking about Congress. Parliament was equal to Congress. So everything went through them. We had no representatives at all. There wasn't the House of Representatives. There were no senators. There were governors. And we briefly studied, I gave you a passage, and I think you had to answer a couple of questions. I did not want to go into that really in depth because I knew it was kind of pointless. It was a brief time in history that they actually set up a government in the colonies because you got to have some kind of government or people going all crazy. But they set up a government that was still controlled by the king. He picked the governor. The governor reported back and forth to him. So it wasn't like a government like we have now. Of course, we based our government off that. The Parliament, Parliament, was equal to what we have as in the Congress, and of course the king would be the president, except for we elect the president, and kings, it's through your bloodline. So to colonize, I was a little surprised by this too. I don't know why I'm surprised by anything anymore, but the best way that I could describe colonization, I gave the example of a bee. I have plants in my room at school. And I said, instead of having greenhouse plants, if I had real pretty flowers, and I have a big hole in my ceiling. You don't know that if you've never been in my room. I have a huge hole in my ceiling. And things come down through it and eat quite often. Squirrels and possums, possibly raccoons, I don't know. But a bee came in, and it's summertime. And there's nothing but the bee and all these flowers. And the bee reports back to who? The queen. And the little bee comes back and says, hey, I found this really cool spot. It's got lots of flowers. Let's go there. The king is the queen bee. The bee is the colony, the colonist, those people from Britain. And he goes and gets all his bee friends, and they come back, and in the corner of my room, they find the perfect spot. But there's one problem. There's a spider web up there. And the bee says, well, that's okay. We'll just knock them out of the way, and we'll go ahead and build our hive. The spider, what do you think the spider is? If you said the Native Americans, you are right. And they moved them out of the way. And all those bees come together and they work. They work together. They work to build their home. They work to build an industry, and their industry is their beehive, which produces honey. It's a colony. It's a bee colony. The people that were the colonists were the same way. They came together somewhat for each little colony after they figured it out. I didn't go way into that because that was another thing that you should have learned before you got into 8th grade. They came together and they created colonies. Now, Jamestown was the first colony, successful colony. Put that out there. There were many colonies before that. One of the colonies that most of y'all find fascinating is the lost colony of Roanoke. You look on YouTube, if you're a conspiracy theorist, there's lots of conspiracies. And I think about 2 years ago, National Geographic had found some more evidence, possibly what happened to them. It's a really interesting story. We didn't get to go in it this year because Buzz did not cover it. Of course, most of my lessons I made myself anyhow, but I still went by the topics they had. So I think they thought that y'all should have had already had this information years before. I've always taught it. So anyhow, before Jamestown, there was a lot of issues. First off, and I'm not meaning this mean in any way, but this is the truth, they were only sending men over. And that was possibly initially a pretty good idea, but the men weren't doing anything. I mean, they were trying, but they really couldn't take care of themselves because they didn't really take care of themselves over in England. They had somebody helping them. So they failed. They died. They got killed. They had diseases. They'd never been anywhere like this before. They'd never been exposed to the elements. They didn't know how to build proper housing or shelter, not even housing, because you got to have a couple of things. You got to have food, water, shelter. 3. And they didn't make it. They couldn't survive the winters. They had malaria. They had Native Americans who fought and said, no, you're not taking where I've been living. And they kept going back and forth. And then we had a lot of people who died en route to the Americas because, once again, they had scurvy and they had to figure that one out. And then they didn't really have systems. They kind of came over here and it was like a free-for-all. And nobody was making them do anything. Kind of like a lot of students, I'll say like a lot of teachers, or a lot of people in general. If somebody's not making you do something and you just don't have that will in you, you don't have a system, you don't have a schedule, they just weren't working, and it was major failure. And then finally you had a colony where, I can't remember his name, John, came in and he said, look, if you're going to be in this colony, you're going to work. Everybody here, I don't care how old you are, if you can pick up a feather, you are going to work. And he put everybody to work. They started tobacco plantations. Everybody had a job. The kids had a job, men had a job, women had a job, and they made that thing work because they all worked together. And they knew that they had responsibilities, so thus started the colonies, and then it kept on. However, I'm going to teach you this real quick because I lived in St. Augustine, Florida, and St. Augustine, Florida is the oldest established continued colony city in history in the United States. It was originally settled by the Spanish. It is a really cool place if you ever get a chance to go there, but it is, if anybody ever asks you, if you're playing trivia one night, what is the oldest city in the United States, you are going to answer St. Augustine, Florida. However, if you get asked what's the original colony, you're going to say Jamestown. Okay, colonies. Everybody got that? You got any questions? Sugar Act. Smuggling. Weird concept, but it was a big deal, and it made the king a whole lot of money, and it made the colonists very mad. Tomorrow, I don't think we're going to do a whole lot tomorrow. We have a lot to do, just admin type stuff. I may go over a few notes. I may make you a video at school, and I may be over here tomorrow night in my pajamas. Don't make fun of this hairdo. Y'all hear me? I love you. Don't make fun of me. I wanted you to get this video. I think really all we're going to talk about is Patrick Henry and Samuel Adams. We might throw the Stamp Act up in there. Yeah. And that's it. And you guys really, you have no assignment. I've already talked to the powers that be, and I said, I'm just not giving my kids any assignment. This is enough to have to watch me and listen to me. Next week, I'm still playing with it. We're going to do claims, but I think I'm going to do them a little bit different, and I think you might be a little happy. We're going to go real slow. We're going to kind of interchange. It's really hard for me to figure out how to do this with you people at home. But I know what my kids are going to do at school. So, if you see a video tomorrow night, it's because I did some lessons. Okay. Peace out, children. Once again, if you need me, please do not hesitate to get on Google Hangout during school hours and ask me questions while you're in class. You should be in class when we're in class. It'd be a whole lot easier for you. I'm trying to figure out how to do this live stream. I don't know really if I can do it, but if I'm live streaming, then you can at least get on during class and you can participate in conversations with the kids in class and have some interaction, and you can ask me questions, and hopefully it works. Anyhow, I'll let you know. I can't even make a recording work. Anyhow, Monday nights from 5 to 6. This is also another thing. If you watch this to the end, Monday night from 5 to 6, if you go on Buzz on your announcements, it has virtual tutoring. Different than virtual Wednesdays. From 5 to 6 on Monday nights, I'm online and available for you. Yesterday, on Wednesdays, I'm on there from 2 to 3:30, but I had several students who said that they got on and they did not see me. I was there. I do know how to do that. I don't know. If that happens, email me, or don't. You can't, because I don't check my email while I'm at school. But Google Hangout pops up in the bottom of my screen. It's like, and I hear it, and I'm like, oh, it's like sending a text message. Okay, take advantage of that. After this, I promise you I'm done. I'm letting you go, because this is, you only have 1 minute. If you failed last semester, we are sending out recovery packets. You got an email. Your parents got an email. If I do not have your email address and you are listening to me right now and you know I don't have your email address, I need it because I need to get in contact with not your email address, your parental unit's email address, so that you can get this recovery packet. In my class, I can tell you it's not a whole lot because I made it. But you need to do it. It will increase your grade and you will pass. Bye.